Hi, Roy.
Hey, Joe.
What's up,
Good to
man?
talk to you.
Good
We're
to.
here.
Yeah, right. We are here.
Yeah.
Nice to meet
Yes.
you. Thanks for taking a minute out.
You too. Absolutely. Looking forward to our conversation here.
Absolutely. And we're going to start off with a bang. And what I'm going to ask you is, first and foremost, tell me a little bit about how you survived COVID. That was quite a time period for the last 3 years. It all worked on us in different ways. How did you get through it? And how has it changed the way that you do things now?
Okay. So, for me, it was weird because everybody else was suddenly dealing with this completely different way that they had to engage with work and all of that. But I had defined my entire career going back 10 years before COVID, 2010, to I need the freedom and flexibility to work from home, to set my own schedule, to like serve clients in ways that I decide. And so suddenly everybody else was like, I'm working from home. And I was like, what's new? So in that way, like my ride for COVID was, I think, a little bit less chaotic than a lot of people. But at the same time, like I dealt with the same fears, the same existential dread that we all felt when it was like this thing that we had no clue about. Um, and suddenly worried about, I have three kids who are doing school from home and what that's going to look like, and dealing with wearing masks, and things were upended. But at the same time, I don't know, like it was definitely a challenging time. I feel very fortunate, I guess, that our family was very healthy, stayed healthy throughout. We pretty much everybody in the family has had COVID at least once so far. Um, and nobody had really bad symptoms. And at the same time, um, actually, my wife's business, she shifted to telehealth. She does psychology. I'm marketing consultant, so I'm able to do marketing consulting and copywriting and that stuff from home. And um, and and yeah, like I'm welcoming everybody to the work from home world.
Yeah, well, and that was the name of the game, It was really about kind of delving into this world that we all kind of skated on a little bit, but we made it more of a
Yeah.
mainstream part of our lives.
Yeah, and I don't mean to like belittle anybody that had a much more difficult time. Like it's just my
Yeah, no.
experience. Yeah.
No, no, no. And I think there's that buyer's remorse. Sometimes I'll hear people say, I'm not saying it was good. I'm not saying, that I'm downplaying. I don't think anybody is. I think that everybody had their own interpretation, and there was life forces that you went in with that just made it more attainable for you to do what you wanted to do. And plus you were already doing remote, so it just kind of fit into what you were already
Yeah,
doing.
for sure.
So, um, so let me ask you this. I
Yeah.
want to boil down. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to add something?
No, you're good.
Oh, okay, cool. I just wanted to I want to boil down exactly to what you do on a daily basis for a living. So I'm going to hypothetically put you in front of a bunch of third graders, career day, elementary school. One of the kids looks up and asks, "What do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
Well, the most simple thing that I can do is I can talk about what I did yesterday as if we're recording this. So yesterday I sat down with the owner of a company that sells to people internationally, and sells to people through the internet. I sat down with the owner of the company and their marketing team, and I talked to them about how to solve their biggest marketing problems, how to get more people interested in their business, how to get more people buying from their business, how to make more sales, and how to do it all more profitably. And for, in this case, it was a half day consultation. So I sat down and I talked to them for half the day, and we talked about what they're doing now, and we talked about what they can do next in order to achieve their business goals and get more customers. And that's kind of the core deliverable in my business right now. I do a few more things, but that's
Yeah.
what I would talk about.
Yeah, and that's essential. And I'm curious, when you were in the third grade, what did you want to be when you grew up? What was your dream?
Oh man. Let's see. By third grade, I hadn't discovered hockey yet. I don't know what I don't know that I had any clue. I know that my daughter's in third grade. Surprisingly, she already knows that she wants to be an architect. But I know that most of her classmates want to be YouTube influencers. And I actually do that. You know, like I do have a YouTube channel with a few thousand subscribers, and I create content regularly, teaching people how to do marketing and bringing people into my business. But for the most part, you know, everybody who wants to be a YouTube influencer, maybe that's what I would actually tell the third graders. I get on YouTube and I talk to people about how to grow their business.
And that
But
light
that's
bulb
not where the
and the light bulb would go off. They would
yeah
totally relate to it. So
yeah yeah.
you're a big hockey fan?
Uh, I it's weird. I'm less of a fan and more of a fan of playing it. You know,
Okay.
so I don't follow a lot of pro hockey or anything, but I'm a hockey lover. Like I love playing it, and actually, my son started playing last year. He started a little late compared to when I started in life, and I thought that I started late. Um, but I had the opportunity to coach, and that was a lot of fun too.
What a great sport. So yesterday I interviewed somebody and they were a big sports fan and I was like, if you could go back in time and see any sporting event in any place and any time, where are you going to go? And he said, I would go back to the 1980 game in Lake Placid when the USA won. And I was like, hold on a second,
That's
dude, he was there. And I was like, oh my God, you were at that game. He watched it.
wow.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
I was like, there's not for the pinnacle of like American sports, especially. I don't know that there was a moment that was more magnanimous than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. Like before you finish that sentence, I was thinking how I would answer that question, and that feels like the most impactful moment that it would be just amazing to be a part of. Yeah.
Could you imagine being in that crowd filtering in? Because I doubt anybody seriously thought they were going to win. Now, when you watch the movie, you realize there was momentum. They were a serious team, but no one beat USSR. No one did. So
Yeah.
just going in thinking it was going to be a good fight and then the miracle happens, it's insane.
Yeah. I mean it's one of those things where you want to believe your team is going to win. Um but I mean, at this point, like I live in Lincoln, Nebraska, which is up the road from you, so you're probably aware of the Huskers, and we all
Yeah.
want to believe that the Huskers are going to win, but we don't have a lot of faith that that's actually going to be the end of what happens at the end of the season. New head coach this year, who knows? Maybe things change. We all want to believe that they're going to have an undefeated season. Um, Nobody's expecting it. But
Yeah.
on that international stage of the Olympics, to be able to go back and say, well, we all want the USA hockey team to win. That would be great.
Yeah.
But then to go back and have that happen, like, yeah.
Oh, it's crazy. So I got to tell you, I have a radio show. This
Yes.
is a part of what I do, and I also have a jazz radio show. My engineer is from Lincoln. His name is John Christopher. He has a radio show called the Neon Beat, which is like the American Songbook. But he's been an engineer his whole life, and he talks to me about Lincoln all the time.
Yeah, it's a wonderful town. I think that it has, in some ways, similar energy to Kansas City. I have friends who've moved down to Kansas City. That's where you're at right now,
Yeah,
right?
Kansas City. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Lincoln's a wonderful place. I really like it. It's where we are building we've lived in our forever home since 2011 here. So,
Okay.
um, yeah, that's we plan to stay here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you got a forever home, for sure. So let's dig into your life. Let's get to the beginnings. Talk to me about what seeds were put into you to become who you are today in marketing, sales. You're obviously somebody that gives and wants to help people. How did that happen?
Um, I think a lot of chaotic things come together, but most specifically, the transition into marketing happened. I was initially a marketing major in college, but decided I hated. I didn't want to go through the business school. I didn't want to go through a marketing major. I didn't like what I was having to do in the marketing program. Um, and so I got my degree in psychology with a minor in English, and I spent most of my time studying like meditation type stuff and old literature. So I was into writing. I wrote like a book of poetry and performed poetry competitions and stuff like very like college, type experience. And then I, with my Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and no intention to go to grad school in psychology, I got the best career that you can get with an undergrad degree in psychology, which is answering customer service phone calls at the local gas company. So you don't pay your gas bill all winter, Joe. And we come out, we send somebody out on the first warm day of spring to shut off service. And you need somebody to call and yell at. Well, yeah, this is Roy. And so I was working, that was my first full-time job, working 40 hours a week on the phones, headset call center. But I worked noon to 9 p.m. and most people don't want to talk to the gas company after 7 p.m.
Yeah.
They have dinner. They really don't want to talk after dinner, right? So they have dinner. They don't want to talk to you. And so I had a lot of time between calls. Well, I bought this book off Amazon called The Well-Fed Writer. And this was 2005, spring of 2005. Bought this book called The Well-Fed Writer. And this guy says, I don't know if you know, but as a writer, you don't have to be a starving artist. Businesses pay writers well to write things for the business. And he was into writing things like annual reports and stuff, which I did not want to do, like annual reports for public companies. But he said there's this group of these people, copywriters, who write ads and sales letters and marketing pieces, and small businesses need them too. And it's not like Madison Avenue, right? Like it's not the big like Super Bowl commercials, right? And something about that world just clicked for me. So it was like, I can make a good living as a writer, helping businesses get customers. And the thing about this little field in marketing, direct response, is I can actually get paid based on the results my marketing generates. So very like sales focused, marketing focused, or like results focused. And it really it just triggered something. Okay, I have this interest in writing and this is a way to make a living. And within about 3-4 months, I was working for an IT training publisher out in Oregon as the primary marketing guy. The old marketing guy moved up to president and helped triple that company or so, put him on the Inc. magazine list of America's fastest growing businesses. I told him I had the intention to go off on my own and work with clients as a freelancer. But it was such a good work environment that it was hard for me to quit until we were moving back across the country. So we moved out to Oregon, moved back to the Midwest. And when I was moving back across the country, I launched my career working freelance with these companies, and just went from there. And I've just continued to write, it's video promotions, website landing pages, all of that. I did the writing side for a very long time. I built an agency. I had other writers working under me, was training writers, working with clients primarily all over the country, but some all over the world. And then recently have transitioned from the writing role to more of a leadership role, where I work with clients at a strategic level. I help them define what all their marketing needs to do and create projects out of that, and then function as a fractional CMO with them to guide their entire team. And so, yeah, I mean, that transition was just realizing I had the strength in writing. I say that with 2020 hindsight. I wasn't that strong at writing at that point. I had the interest in writing, and I found a way to make a good living writing. And then I just went down the marketing rabbit hole.
So who's been kind of a role model or a hero for you in your life?
Oh man, I try to have as many heroes as possible. Specific to work, I just look at people who have been where I want to be and who've done what I've wanted to do. So there's this copywriter named Gary Bensavinga who went from being a hero, went from somebody I knew nothing about to being recommended to me. Like, if you are serious about becoming a good copywriter, you should study this Gary Bensavinga guy, because for an example of one thing that he did, I don't want to go digging for it right now. He wrote this little booklet for, like the magazine Prevention, and
Yeah.
And they do a few others, but there was this publisher named Rodale, and he wrote this booklet for a book that they were publishing. And this little booklet mailed out 100 million pieces 100 million pieces at acceptable economics. This was something where they would spend $1 and have to get at least $1 in return with a new customer, right? And so mailed out 100 million pieces at acceptable economics. And he earned over $5 million in royalties for this little booklet that he wrote, and bought a house in the Hamptons. And so, with that story, and he was well regarded for many successes like that. That was just a particularly big and exciting one with a, nice little punchline at the end of a house in the Hamptons.
Yeah.
And so, folks like Gary, Eugene Schwartz is a classic, like he, just junk mail copywriter, he became one of the world's leading art collectors during his life. There's a gentleman named Jay Abraham who consults with Damon John. He's like Damon John's marketing coach, Tony Robbins' marketing coach. Like they all turn to Jay Abraham for strategy. And I like to just say, like, what are the principles and strategies that I can get from all of these different people? Also, heroes are, people who live balanced lives, people who I made it a priority. Like, I don't want to work 60 hours a week. I don't want to work. I don't want to not be here for my kids growing up. Part of me choosing to be a freelancer and ending up in that work from home situation that allowed me to weather COVID fairly well was I made the decision, like, I'm going to be home for my kids while they're growing up.
Yeah.
And there are some afternoons where I work until dinner time, but other afternoons I pick them up from school. Some mornings I drop them off at school. Other mornings my wife drops them off. And it's been about the flexibility and building a life kind of on my terms, on our terms. And anybody that can teach me something in that regard too, I consider a hero.
So what's the ultimate motivator for you every day? What gets you through the day?
I like to do creative things. I like to use my creativity. I like to be in deep work. I like to be in that creative process. I know, for a while it was getting results, and I still really enjoy getting results. But I also know that being focused on the important work is like the lead indicator and the results are the lag indicator, right? So if I'm helping somebody solve a marketing problem and design a marketing system, a selling system for their business, and I'm really like, I'm excited about that process based on my background and my experience, probably a pretty good bet it's going to get the results, right? But what motivates me on a daily basis is that results. Like, I've gotten enough results at this point that my son asked if I never had to work another day in my life based on the results that we've gotten. And it's not quite there. I want to keep working, right? But I've gotten enough results that I'm not worried about getting a paycheck this month.
Yeah.
I'm more motivated on a daily basis by just solving big marketing problems and doing exciting work with folks.
So speaking of that timeline of successes that you've had, what are you the proudest of that you've done?
The proudest. One of the things that the first thing that comes to mind, and this was kind of a full circle moment, is it's actually, it goes back to 2014. I got an email on a Sunday afternoon saying, okay, a friend of mine who helped build Boardroom Reports, which was a very big publisher, up to over $150 million per year, was putting on a seminar that was a memorial seminar for his boss and the person who'd founded Boardroom Reports that had passed away, Marty Edelston. My friend Brian Kurtz and his boss, Marty Edelston. And as a way to honor Marty, Brian was bringing together people who had been very influential for Boardroom, many of whom were my marketing heroes, and putting on an event where they would just share. The event was called Titans of Direct Response. It was an event where they would just share their greatest lessons in marketing. And Brian and I had a developing relationship. And Brian asked me to be the person who wrote the sales letter to invite all these people to come. And I of course accepted. And I really did everything that I could to capture Brian's love for marketing, for the people he'd invited, for Marty, who'd founded Boardroom, who he worked with for 30 years, for the industry, for the craft, for all of that. And I did such a good job of capturing Brian's voice that one of his best friends, who is a copywriter, actually thought Brian had written it. Said, Brian, I didn't realize that you'd actually become a good copywriter. But also we filled the room, and even most of the people who were attendees in the room are people at the level of like my marketing heroes. But I also got to write for and speak about many of my marketing heroes. Gary Bensavinga was one of them, who I came from like not knowing who he was when I was asked, to actually I ended up being able to sit across from him at a VIP dinner at the event and talk to him. And so that's the one that, like, it's a very public win. It's not my biggest win with clients or anything, not fastest win. But it's something that I will always cherish, like the total experience around that.
So based on everything you've lived through and all of the wisdom you've gained in your life, if you have a dream tonight, you run into the 20-year-old version of yourself, you could give that version of you a piece of advice, what would you say?
Go get tested for ADHD. Because it was my late 20s before I was actually diagnosed. And stay away from the ADHD drugs. Focus on behavioral strategies. Because I didn't respond that well to the ADHD medicine. And but I've done a lot since discovering that I have ADHD to just kind of learn what it is, how my mind works differently, and then lean into the very positive things about how my mind works differently, and treat myself well around the negative ways my mind works differently, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know that there is a ton that I would change about my life. But many of my struggles in life have been have come from not really understanding all the ways that my different attention and focus ability makes it hard to deal with things in a world that doesn't necessarily anticipate that I'm going to behave in that way.
Yeah. So everyone has a perception of you. We have all these pockets of people, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you live your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Well, kind of tied to the ADHD thing. I feel like I underperform my capacity. Like I feel like I'm a level greater than even all the best mythologies that I've managed to create in everybody's mind about myself. One thing is regardless of any of that, though, that I do care. Like, I really do care. I want the best for people, regardless of where they're at in life, what their station is. And I hope that comes across. I hope that's a part of how most people perceive me, but I care that everybody has the opportunity to live their best life.
Excellent. Hey, Roy, thank you very much for opening up. Thanks for taking a minute out today. And before we leave this proverbial digital door, where can anybody go to learn more about you, hire you, anything pertaining to your world?
Yeah, probably the first step regarding anything we talked about today is to go check out royfurr.com, ROYFURR.com. And that's primarily information about my fractional CMO services and who I can help there, how I can help you, what my process is, how I create results. And check that out.
Cool. Roy, this has been great, man. Thank you for opening up. Send my best to Lincoln. And
awesome.
Yeah, until next time, man.
Thank you, Joe.
Take care. See you later.